Shoot on sight. Ready. Cleanup sequence initiated. Preparing for dust up. Confirmed. Absorption test. Animal hypostasis. Into the shadows. Hunt them down. Defensive mode engaged. Animal test. Relay. Moving.
One of, if not the most fun characters in the game is Clorinde, and the way that I normally find most of my enjoyment from her is when I'm able to extend her rotation and extend her on-field uptime so that I can play with her basically as much as possible. Usually this is kind of antithetical to what you would want to do with a lot of characters because you tend to want to shorten their on-field time to line up with buff timers in particular. That way you can actually end up with higher DPS. And that's usually something that people will obviously focus on. But I may have found a new team for Clorinde that can kind of almost perfectly sort of cater to that optionally long on-field time that she has. In order to extend Clorinde's uptime, we're of course talking about Thundering Fury, where triggering electro reactions with Clorinde can of course reduce the cooldown of her skill. Now previously this was very satisfyingly easy to achieve with a Quicken team, as the Quicken and Aggravate auras were persistent so she could react with them non-stop, thus constantly reducing that skill cooldown. But now we could do the same thing with Lunar Charged, as that aura is also quite persistent. Technically, I think you can do that with Electro Charge, but A, Electro Charge kind of sucks for Clorinde because of how we tend to build her, and then B, I feel like it's way less reliable. I don't really know. So the on-field time that we're working with is around 7 seconds for her skill, plus 2 seconds with her ult, then of course another 7 seconds with her skill, totaling 16 seconds total on-field time with Clorinde, which is great if we have a look at Benefa, because Columbina's skill lasts for 25 seconds, her ult lasts for 20 seconds, Birgitta and Inefa's A4 passive lasts 20 seconds each. So in the right rotation, both Columbina and Inefa can pretty much keep supporting Clorinde through the extended uptime. So who should we actually bring for that final slot? Well, Sucrose does in fact sound like the obvious choice, and you can work with her. Instead of dropping Clorinde's ult in between skills, you can actually just swap to Sucrose, do her skill again, then swap back, and of course continue with the DPS. Her A4 passive, being Sucrose's, lasts for 8 seconds, which is of course 1 second longer than Clorinde's skill uptime. And VV lasts for 10 seconds, so either way, yes, Sucrose does in fact work pretty well. But I think I find that it's way more fun to not worry about swapping off Clorinde midway and just in fact going all in. That's how I find the most enjoyment out of Clorinde. Now I hope you guys liked the video and subscribe to the channel, because for the final slot we're going to enter Durin. Because Durin's ult lasts for 20 seconds as well, and in this case we're playing support Durin, so while he's providing his off-field DPS, he's also shredding Pyro and Electro res by 20% for 6 seconds every time he triggers an overload, so that's actually, I think we're getting around 26 seconds of Pyro Electro res shred. Which is great, because even though Columbina is a Hydro character, in this team she's primarily doing electro damage via Lunar Charge. Thus we have TF, Clorinde, Benefa, Luna over Vape. I haven't really given this a name, it's just the most fun character in the game. And the rotation that makes the most sense to me right now is the following. Inefa skill into Columbina, ult skill into Durin, into Inefa ult into Clorinde. Because in my case, I'm taking into account something like Nocturne's Curtain Call, which is Columbina's signature weapon, where using Columbina's ult first means that I should be able to get that plus 14 energy when I use her skill, and thus I don't waste that plus 14 energy. But after the first rotation, you can skip the Inefa skill before Columbina, but I feel like you'd run the risk of getting hit without Inefa's shield, so that could be a bit of a problem. Sometimes I don't feel confident that I can get Durin's ult back in time, so in those scenarios I'd basically treat him like Sucrose and chuck in a use of his skill instead of using Clorinde's ult. Or vice versa if I sometimes don't have Clorinde's ult ready for some reason. The big unfortunate thing though is that during the second wave of Clorinde's attacks, I tend to run out of Columbina's ult uptime because again it only lasts for 20 seconds. Haven't really found a good workaround with that. I've tried different kinds of rotations and they've all felt kind of iffy and or clunky. When I run this team through the simulacrum, I get around 111k DPS, so the team seems to be pretty damn strong. This is of course with the level of investment that I've put in these characters, so naturally your mileage may vary. The only time this team feels like it's falling apart is when I'm going up against enemies that can actually get ragdolled by the overload reaction. For example, in the current Spiral Abyss, fighting the chickens by themselves in Chamber I think 1 tends to result in that kind of problem where Clorinde isn't exactly shooting anything anymore because the chickens have been launched into space by the overload reaction. As a result, TF isn't exactly working, and then suddenly the entire team is kind of falling apart. Now, that being said though, TF Clorinde seems to be more than strong enough at the present moment, but if you need to optimize this any further for whatever reason, then okay, well, Whimsy Clorinde does end up being quite a fair bit stronger. I think the main reason is that Whimsy forces a shorter and more stock standard rotation that results in more uptime on Columbina's ult actually, which significantly increases Enefa's DPS in the team. So, in the same time period that I have been testing with Clorinde, somehow I'm ending up with a little less Clorinde DPS, but in favor of like 77% more Enefa DPS, thus resulting in the Whimsy team, where Clorinde's definitely getting carried actually, doing 128k DPS instead. That being said though, with the shorter rotation, I do find that I start to run into some energy problems, in particular with Durin, so that is another thing to keep in mind. So as a Clorinde main myself, I'd rather play with the variant where I can enjoy Clorinde more and where she's actually pulling her weight by enjoying herself more. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. I highly recommend giving this team, especially the TF variant, a go and just see how you feel about that. Now hopefully this team is just as satisfying to play for you as it is for me, but anyway, hope you guys enjoy this. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.